Welcome back to the dojo, everybody. And Cody, welcome back to, well, actually, welcome to the dojo. Appreciate you making time to come here. And we're going to talk about some out of state hunting, which is like a huge passion of mine, obviously, and yours. And yeah, again, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here. Looking forward to jumping into it.
Yeah. So I guess we'll just start off with like how many states are you hunting this year?
Let's see. I've got I'll have Kentucky, Illinois, and then I drew a Kansas tag, and then of course I'll be at home. So four at the moment, and then in a perfect world, if everything goes good, I mean I may bounce to Missouri or something like that on the way back from Kansas. So we'll just have to see how that goes.
Oh man, that'd be awesome. So where is home?
Alabama.
Alabama. Yeah.
Yep.
So man, you're the second Alabama guy in just a matter of probably 3 weeks I've talked to. So Kalen Pope was the first one, and
Yeah.
yeah, not you. So that's awesome, man. So
Yeah, that's a good buddy of mine. We're not far apart. We're probably 2 hours from each other, maybe an hour and a half.
oh awesome. Yeah. Yeah, he was, man, I had a ton of fun talking to him, just learning about your guys' state and just the diversity there and the complexities with it. In some ways I kind of feel it too. I'm from Michigan, so deer like maturity and all of that stuff. We have some of the same issues there. And that's what led me to head out of state and kind of try out different things. But I guess, when did you start going out of state, and what led you to start like hunting out of state?
So in 2008, I got invited on a trip, and it was I wouldn't necessarily, it was like a semi-guided, I guess you would say. It was a whole group of older guys. I mean, I was the youngest one. I think I was maybe 18, 19 years old, something like that. And it was more like camp, like just camp set, like where everybody just comes back. They're playing cards. A lot of those guys were drinking. They were there to get away. A lot of them was get away from their wives and stuff like that. Just they were going and they didn't care what they shot. I mean, and you could shoot anything that you wanted at that place. Um, but I was there. I was at that time that year. So we went the second week of November, and that year I had already killed 11 with my bow, 11 just deer total. It went well, like $1 or $2, but I was like, that was when I was getting into it. I was like, this is what I'm trying to do. And it was like I was going to bed at like 8 o'clock. I was the first one up. I was getting my stuff ready. I was ready to go out the door as soon as somebody would take me and drop me off. And I ended up shooting a 140-inch 8 pointer. And so I got down and stalked the deer. And then after like I mean I watched him go down. It was a rifle hunt. And once I called like the guide to come back and pick me up, he pulled up. He was like, "What are you doing way down here?" I was like, "That deer is laying right there. I just shot him right there." He's like, "You're not supposed to be down out at your stand." I was like, "This is my first time. I don't know. I'm here. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to kill a deer." And after that, like I seen like the type of deer that was there, and I was like, I'm doing this every single year. And so since then, since 2008, I've took at least one trip, and here in the past probably 10 years, it's been two or three out of state trips every year.
Yeah, man. Say same thing for me. 2008 was the first time I went, and I went with kind of like a mentor of mine. We went to Nebraska and hunted out of state on public over there. And so same thing, ended up killing a nice buck and just thought, well, this is it for me, man. So let me ask you, that atmosphere that you were in, like you were saying, like it was that kind of a deer camp that I can resonate with, like here in Michigan, where guys are playing cards and having some brews and just having a good time. It's more of a community thing than, I think, community first, then hunting, which I respect that. I like it,
Yeah.
but like you, I'm the same way. Like I'm man, I'm up early. I'm hunting all day. I'm coming back, eating, taking a shower, going to bed, and I'm up early the next day. Has that changed for you at all? Do you ever are you hunting solo when you go out of state, or are you doing a group thing?
So, so actually, I do about 50-50. I mean, it depends on the state and depends on where I'm going. So I have a lease in Illinois, and there's 12 guys in my lease, and we've got a house that we stay in, and it's kind of we've actually got two houses, and we separate weeks, so six guys can be here at a time, and it's a little politics going on with that. I mean, I don't really care for that setting, but it's a good piece of property. Um, and I do enjoy both aspects. I enjoy when and I'm still serious there, even though everybody's there. We're eating good. I mean, we're cooking, having a couple drinks or something like that, but it's still it's still serious. I mean, I'm not there to party all night, stay, hang out until 1 o'clock playing poker and then sleeping in late or nothing like. There's a lot of guys that they won't even get out, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's perfectly fine if that's what you're in for. But so and then the other half is yeah, I'm sleeping in the truck. Either solo or I've got another buddy that we do the same thing. He sleeps in his truck. We both have I have a Suburban. He has a Yukon XL, and we've converted the back of them to sleep in. And it's we're might be meeting up out of state. We're hunting maybe completely different spots, but we're meeting up at night. Maybe we grab dinner or something like that, or we
Yeah.
park next to each other. But so it really just depends on the time of the year. Because I mean, there might be times where he's tagged out somewhere, or I'm tagged out, and I'm going somewhere else. So it really just depends on time of year and the state or the location.
Yeah. So let's dive into that a little bit because what you just said, there you had two different ways of going out of state. One is like the Airbnb way, like got a house, bunch of guys. I'm doing that early season Nebraska. And then there's the other, like what I call like the mobile hunter, right? And that's I'm getting in
Mhm.
I'm changing my vehicle around to kind of be this on the road motel. And I'm really interested in that. That's something I dabble around with a lot. And I've got, like you, I've got a couple guys who are the same way where we can just kind of bounce and meet up. And it's funny because sometimes we meet up and we're hunting together, and then it's like, well, I'm going down here and that's just gone, like
Right.
no hard feelings. Cool. I'm going over here and I'm hunting over here. So walk us through your setup inside your Suburban.
Um, so I actually got the idea from a pro bass fisherman, and he was sleeping in the back of his truck. I'd seen it on YouTube probably, I don't know, 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And he built basically a box. And then after I seen Ryan Snow's, it looked a lot like his. It was a box just like that, had the deck lids that, all that stuff that you could store things under and still have your bed on top. So that's what I ended up building in the back of mine. And I use a Hest mattress. It's like I got it at REI. It's like a camping mattress, it's memory foam. Um, and actually, I don't even. I'm trying to debate if I'm gonna put like a power bank in the back of it. I actually, in the wintertime, I leave it running and I'm running the heat. In the summertime, I'm leaving it running. I'm running AC. So if I'm charging anything, I can charge it off. I got power inverter in there. I can charge, a laptop or phone or anything like that, or even just a regular cigarette lighter. But other than that, it's pretty. I wouldn't say primitive, but it's pretty basic as far as that goes. I mean, I've got storage and I've got, you know, the stuff that I'm really going to need, and I got a nice mattress.
So what are you doing for like eating? Like do you bring a grill with you? Are you going out hitting the road? Or I mean, you look like a guy that's kind of fit. I doubt I see you at McDonald's every night while you're on the road, probably.
No, I try not to. I mean, I might hit a Panda Express on the way or something like that. But other than that, I mean, I usually eat oatmeal every morning, oatmeal and a protein shake, and then for lunch I'll even pack a turkey sandwich or something like that. So I have little small stuff like that. But at night and in the afternoons, I want a decent meal, so I'm usually I'll go to a Mexican restaurant that's local or something like that, and get something fairly decent. That may not be every night, but I'm usually gonna eat one decent meal a day because the other ones are kind of I like to eat all the time. Me and my brother work together, and we're eating just constantly all day long. But so when I'm sitting in a tree stand, I don't have a whole lot with me. But other than that, just I eat one good meal at night, and that's about it.
So the reason why I like want to start off here with like where you're sleeping and stuff like that is because I think that kind of trips guys up. When they go out of state, it's like, well, I don't know, where am I going to stay? And it gets expensive if I have to go get an Airbnb or even get a motel anyway. I mean, now I remember I used to stay at this flea bitten motel in Nebraska, and it was like $45 a night, and it wasn't even that bad. It wasn't that dirty at all. It was just really old, never updated,
Right.
and I loved it. And so I was heading back there last year, and I gave him a call, and it was like something like 1:30 a night now, and I'm like, man, this is crazy. So the Airbnb with a couple guys gets pretty affordable, but if you're going by yourself, man, like there's no way to really beat just, having your truck or, whatever converted into a sleeping area. And I've done it with much smaller rides. I mean, I've done it where I just put the mat on the ground, slept in the back, and threw everything. I mean, it was a tight little cocoon. I had everything back there and me, and it works just fine. And I just think guys get tripped up a little bit too much on that stuff, knowing that you can actually get comfortable in the back of your ride. Now, I will say this: car. I've tried it, man. It's miserable. Don't do the car.
Well, you can get pretty creative though. In my old truck, I hadn't my buddy had already converted his Yukon, and I was like, man, I don't really know what I'm gonna do. So I go out there and I start tinkering with it, and I pulled the front seat out, the passenger seat out, and I built a platform. I raised the back seat up, built a platform. I slept on the floor in that thing, and just had everything in the back, basically the back floorboard of my truck. So I mean, it's just if you want to do it, you're going to do it regardless. You know,
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
there's. I mean, you can make excuses, and that's what holds a lot of people back. It really does. I mean, they're like, man, I don't know, I don't want to pay this. I don't have a place to sleep. I mean, that's the holding back factor.
It is. It really is. And then I think the next one is like where am I going to hunt? And it gets a little intimidating going out of state. So you have the lease in Illinois. What else? What are you targeting in the other states?
So in Kentucky, I actually pay a farmer to hunt there, and he actually has a little cabin or little piece of. It's actually a little side shed of a barn that he converted into a little sleeping quarter. Um, I stay there, and it's got a shower and stuff like that. And then you're talking about targeting like
Yeah,
the
like
where I'm
yeah,
location.
yeah. I guess what kind of are you like? What you just said here. So in Kentucky, you have a guy that you're kind of not almost like a lease, I would say, right? To
Mm-hmm.
hunt there as well. It gives you a place to sleep. How about the other ones? Are you targeting all leases? Are you hitting public, or is it like family property?
It's usually. I mean, I only have one lease. Well, I mean, technically the Kentucky place too, but I have a lease in Illinois, and then the other places like Missouri last year was a knock on door permission. Iowa the year before that, knock on door permission. This year in Kansas will be the same thing. It'll be if I get out there when I take a scouting trip, if I find something, it'll be knocking on doors or I'll be hunting public.
Yeah. And what I'm finding too, so I hunt a lot of public now just because if I'm going to be lazy anywhere, it's there knocking on doors. But everywhere else, I'm pushing pretty hard. So I hit a lot of public, but early in the old days, I mean, I would go to Nebraska and it was shocking. You go walk up and talk to a farmer and it's like, yeah, come on in,
Mm-hmm.
like hunt. And I mean, you don't want to hit the spots that everybody else is hitting. You got to think through that a little bit, but you start getting away from the towns and you start getting away from some of the bigger campgrounds and stuff like that. And there's still farmers who haven't been bombarded by every hunter, walking up to their door. And it's surprising how easy it is to get to yes.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people were blown away that we have permission, in Iowa. They're like, you can still knock on a door in Iowa, but probably not your most populated areas or places that are people like known for wanting to go to Iowa for. But yeah, you can get away from it and knock on doors. And a lot of people are like, we shot one deer on one, my buddy shot a deer on one farm, and we called the landowner. And was like, we're done. We're getting out of here. And he's like, how many did y'all get? He was like, I got one. He's like, I mean, can you not kill a couple more?
Yeah, they want them out of there for sure, man. They look at them
Yeah,
like pests.
they really do.
Yeah, yeah. So when you are looking at properties, I guess are you targeting a specific type of property? Do you have like for me, I really enjoy like rolling hills ag country. I feel like I could go there in any state and pretty get into the game at least.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you kind of like an adventurous guy who's like, man, I'm trying every different type of terrain I can get my hands on.
I would say I'm pretty close to like you. I mean, I'm hunting a little bit of it's mixed ag and timber ground. I mean, really and truly, when I'm looking on a map, I'm looking for aerial views. I'm looking at the funnel, and that's really the only doors I'll knock on. I'm not even going to knock if it's if it don't interest me as far as looking at a map, I'm not gonna mess with it. I mean, not there might be one on it, but I'm just gonna target the ones that maybe it's even a small piece of property. It might be 20 acres, but if it looks like it's the right 20, I'm gonna knock on the door, at least see if I can get permission to walk it.
Yeah. So let's break down what the right 20 looks like in that scenario. First of all, we should probably start with time frame. Are you targeting a certain time of the year as your bread and butter?
So when I'm traveling to a state that I don't have, like Kentucky or Illinois, if I'm going to a different state, I'm probably going to go 90% of the time between November 1st and November 15th.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be there during the rut, and I'm going to pick a funnel. I'm going to look, make sure it's what I think it is, with boots on the ground, and I'm going to sit there for a week.
So are you sitting I mean, could you sit? I'll say it that way. Could you sit 4, 5, 6, 7 days in one stand location if you felt like this for sure is the right funnel?
100%.
Yeah. Man, I gotta give you credit. I used to be able to do that. Now that I've gotten older and I'm 47, dude,
It
I
sucks. I mean, I will say it's brutal.
it is. So I mean, the mentality part of it, right? Like you've got to be like headstrong to be able to sit. I should ask you this: are you sitting dark to dark?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that dark to dark sit for the first 3 days for me, it was like no problem, right? Fourth
Yeah.
day, I'm starting to wear out a little bit. 5, 6, 7, I turn into like almost a robot, man. I don't even know what's
Right.
going on in my head during that time, but yeah, it's tough, man.
Well, I mean, in a case like that, I mean, I've never sat 7 days daylight to dark in a row. Hopefully, I won't have to. But if I was getting to day four or day four, 4.5, and if it's just I'm like I'm not in it, I need a break. I will legit take an afternoon off, and I'll even go to a gym just to get some stress out, or I'll go just maybe sleep late in the morning and then go hunt, get out there at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, and just hunt the rest of the day. But just kind of have like a little mental reset as far as that goes. That way, it's just, I mean, because I don't want to be sitting there on day 6 and I'm just like a zombie, and here comes a zombie walking down the trail, and I'm just looking at it like I don't even know what to do.
Yeah,
Try
yeah.
to try to stay sharp, and that's why I like to get the good food at night. It's just that way I'm not eating peanut butter sandwiches or whatever to kind of keep my mental acuity just where it needs to be.
Yeah, I got this weird tradition, man. I think I said it one other time on a podcast, and my wife's always like, "Don't mention it." But like, if I get to that 3 or 4 day, like, or more around like that 4 day time period, I will go find an Applebee's, and I'll drive an hour if I have to, and I'll go up there, and it's this weird thing. Like, I end up hanging out with like the oldest people in Applebee's, and we just hang out and talk, and
Yep.
like and I'll take selfies. Like I'll take a selfie and send it to my wife. So I've got this like list of selfies with like 60, 70-year-old, men and women at Applebee's. It's just so weird. But I just
I
kind of unwind, You just got to
yeah.
like get your mind off of like what you're
Mhm.
stuck in. And that's just funny little thing that just happens to do it for me.
Hey, I mean, you meet some great people. You might make a relationship with a guy, and it's a farmer, and he's got some ground that you might can hunt.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
I mean, it happens.
So going back to that funnel, can you try to explain what kind of funnel like grabs your attention?
When I'm looking at an aerial perspective, it's going to be. I prefer something it's basically a strip of woods that's connecting two bigger blocks of timber.
Mhm.
It might be a river on one side and a field on another that's 80 yards wide. It might be a bluff on one side and a river on another. And it's 300 yards wide of woods, but that bluff creates a little pinch. And so, from an aerial perspective, it's as basic as a funnel gets. I mean, I'm just looking at it as basic as it can get. It pinches down right there. I'm gonna put a pin on it. I'm either gonna go knock on the door if it's public. I'm gonna walk it to make sure it is what it is, and that's all right there.
So when you walk in there, is there anything else that you're looking for? I mean, because you can see that it's a funnel. It's connecting two bigger pieces of timber. When you walk in, what are you looking for with your eyes?
Just a lot of trails that's coming through that section. It didn't even have to have sign in it. We hunted a place in Iowa. It was a 29-acre tract, and it was a bluff and a river on one side, and it's just probably 10 trails that all converge through that section between the bluff and the river. Um, Not a bit of sign in there. I didn't find a single rub. I don't even know if there was a scraping. I might have made a mock scrape just if they come through and would see it and stop at it. But just I want something that's going to pitch them down. That's got a lot of trails. Now, if I don't see any kind of just if I walk it out on both ends and I don't really see anything and I'm not seeing any kind of trails, and it's open timber or something like that. I don't think they're coming through it. I may put a camera in there or something, but I'm not necessarily gonna sit there for 6 or 7 days.
So how did that one turn out for you where you went in, there wasn't much sign, there was just some runs, the good runs that you're looking for. How'd that hunt turn out for you?
That would probably, if I would have said, if I would have bet my money on killing 170 or inch better deer in Iowa, it would have been on that spot. So that spot set up super weird, and you can only hunt it on any like pretty much a south, any kind of south. It couldn't have a whole lot of east in it, couldn't have a whole lot of west in it, but you could kind of blow your scent back over the river. Or if it was like a no wind day, your thermals are probably dropping in that river because it was flowing. But we hunted it one afternoon. We went out there, so it was me and a buddy, and we were taking turns videoing each other. So the first afternoon we set it, we seen, I don't know, a handful of deer, nice 120-inch 8-pointer. And then the next morning, we only had one more south wind. We got there probably 3 or 4 days prior to the cold front hitting. And so the next morning we sat it and had just what we set up to do, probably 135-inch 10-pointer come walking right through. And he was 22 yards, 25 yards, just right in front of us. And we might only seen 1 or 2 deer that morning. And then the wind was shifting midday, so we got down and was moving stands to another farm that had some north wind spots. And that was the only two hunts we had on that farm. But if we would have had south winds for a week, I honestly think there would have been a monster come through there, because just how it set up and the timber on each side, they had to come through there if they were cruising from one to another. It was just one of those spots where it's like, I would buy the property. If the dude would sell it, he would like, here's the price, I would buy it. It was that good.
So like the fact that you're there for 2 days on a 130, and someone could say, well, it's Iowa, you shouldn't shoot a 135 in Iowa. Well, if you haven't shot a 135 yet and you go to Iowa and you don't shoot it, in my opinion, you're not that smart. But
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. But I'm all for shooting bigger deer too. And but I mean, the fact that you're there for 2 days and you get a 135 come in at 22 yards, it just proves at the point like that pinch worked and that funnel worked out for you. It really quick too. We went back and said, hey, we'd be prepared to sit up to 7 days, but on average, if you can, like how long does it take for you to get it done when you're going out of state?
I'm pretty much on like a 4-day mindset type trip. So the Iowa trip was one trip that actually I've hunted Kansas in 2018 and I took 8 days for, and then Iowa we took 9.5 days. We left on a Friday and we was planning on hunting until Sunday. The weather was going to hit like on Thursday, so we were thinking, man, it was actually snowed that week, that Thursday. We're thinking we're going to kind of nail down our spots and fine tune them on where we actually want to be. And then that Thursday through Sunday, and it was kind of where the first week we were going to bounce back and forth, video each other, and when it come down to that crunch time, we were going to separate. We're here to kill one because we got 4 days left. And so that trip, we got there and we hunted that first spot that afternoon. So we moved that funnel spot that was a 20-acre funnel, 29-acre funnel. That afternoon, we moved to a spot and we seen a pretty good bit of deer. We had to move the stands about 20 yards. And we're like, we think we're 20 yards out of the game. So we go back in the next morning, and that was the farm that he really wanted to hunt it. So those 2 sits were his. And that next morning, we seen, I don't know, we probably seen 12 bucks, and he was the 5th one, and he come chasing a doe down a creek, and he popped up, and he was literally standing under the tree that we was sat up in the day before, and he shoots the deer standing under that tree at 22 or 23 yards. It was a 150-inch 10-pointer, and so that was the second afternoon we were in Iowa. That was the second morning we were in Iowa. And then we get his deer out, get it taken care of, and we're running late. It's probably 1:30 or 2 o'clock. We go to the farm. It's about 30 minutes away that I want to hunt. We bomb in there on our e-bots. We get fairly close, and we sneak in, and I set up a stand where I wanted to see, and I could see a whole lot of area. Seen a 140-inch 9-pointer that afternoon. I think a handful of does, and had probably the biggest 1.5-year-old I've ever seen. He was probably 120-inch 1.5-year-old. He was a basket rack, but had probably 12 or 13 points already. He was going to be a freak. We the wind was going to be exactly the same the next morning. So the next morning, see a monster come across the CRP field chasing a doe, and there's a little patch of woods in front of us, probably 15 trees in this big CRP field, and he chases a doe down in there. And we see the deer pop out. I see the buck pop out. He takes off running to our west, going over the hill. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? Well, 2 coyotes come busting out of the woods chasing him. His doe turns and walks 25 yards right in front of me. And I'm like, if you'd have been behind her, dude, you'd have been done. He was probably a 170-inch 10-pointer. He was at 80 yards. We watched him. I mean, it was just picture perfect. And so that was at probably 7:45, 7:50 in the morning. And about 8:15, I was like, man, I think I'm going to rattle. So I rattle, and coming up out of the bottom to my right, back to the east, it was a deer coming up out of the bottom, and I tapped him on the leg, and I said, here comes a buck. And he walked straight to us, and he's at 16 yards looking up, and we thought he had busted us because he's looking straight at us, but he's hitting us straight. Well, I'd already grabbed my bow, and I turned around, and he turns to his right, walking out to the CRP field, and I had a basketball-sized hole at 18 yards when he was going to walk into it. So I crouched down like in a squat position and shot him through that hole, and he took a step as soon as I released, and I hit him liver. I hit him just a little bit back further than I wanted. He runs out there about 80 yards, and he stumbles, and I'm like, well, that looks promising. Looks like I hit something good. Well, then he stands back up, and he runs another 100 yards, and he falls 2 more times in that 100 yards. And I was like, man, I don't know how good the hit is. I think we just back out. It's 8:40 in the morning. I say we just back out, and as bad as it is, I think I'm going to give him 24 hours because I'm like, it could be guts. He could have just been, I don't know, win it out, back out. If he's dead now, he's dead in the morning. And it was a long day. We went to Pizza Hut right after that. We sat in Pizza Hut for probably 3 hours, just kind of, he'd got it on video, and I videoed his, and we're kind of going back over it, and we're analyzing, we're breaking it down frame by frame. And he's like, he takes a step right here, right when you shoot. Watches him go out there. We watched him fall a couple times, and we're like, he's like, let's just go back in there. And I said, man, I don't want to, because if I bump him, he's off our property. The property line where he ran to was not going to be far from him. And we sat in Pizza Hut for 3 hours just talking about it. We just like, I don't know what to do. Should we go back in there? And I was like, I think we just go look at some other spots. Let's just go scout something or go ride around. We ended up waiting all night and went back. We was there at daylight and drove in, and he was laying right where we thought he was going to be laying.
Nice.
The coyote had got to his back hip, but I mean, he was there, and we didn't bump him, and we got him, But
yeah. So are you typically getting it done, like you said, a 4-day mindset? It's, I mean, sometimes it goes over a couple days, maybe getting it done on, a few days before that, but on average, kind of around that 4-day mark.
I try to keep, even if it's like I said, I've only took 2 trips that are that amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to go. Usually they're long weekends. Like I can run to Kentucky in 3.5 hours. I can run to Illinois in 5.5. I'm going usually for a 3-day weekend. I'm going to leave on Thursday night. I'm going to hunt Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back that night. So I try to keep that kind of attitude where it's like, I don't have a lot of time here. I'm going to be here for a short amount of time. I can't sit back and do 5 observation sets. I'm going to have to try to get in there a little bit.
Yep.
Tiptoe around where I'm going to be. So, I mean, Now it might take me 5 trips to Illinois before I kill one,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be on a 3 or 4 day trip.
Yep. Yeah.
So when we left Iowa that year, we had already taken 9 days off. We left Iowa on Thursday morning, so I drove straight to Illinois. I hunted Thursday afternoon. I put a camera in a spot that I hunted. I'd never been in. Put a camera there. The next morning, we got a snow there. And one of my buddies are in that lease. He said, "Man, I'm hunting this 40-acre block that we have." He said, "I'm hunting this corner, but I can't see that corner over there. I don't know what's coming through there." I was like, "Well, I'll just carry my stuff on my back and I'll find a good tree right there in the corner and I'll sit there." So we hear a buck roar over in this thick stuff right to the north of us, and he calls at it twice. Well, the deer walks straight to him. He shoots him at 25 yards. It runs in front of me and dies. He's 60 yards in front of me. And he falls and his rack's like hung on a tree. So it looks like his head's up. He calls me. He's like, "What's going on?" I said, "Dude, I think he's alive. His head's stuck in a tree, but I can't tell that." So I think he's sitting there with his head up. I said, "Let's sit for about an hour." And it probably wasn't 25 minutes. He calls me back. He said, "What is he doing now?" I said, "He's still got his head up." I said, "Let me call you back." I said, "Here comes a buck." So a buck comes walking straight to where his deer is, and he actually passes the deer, but he gets downwind of it. It's a northwest wind. He gets downwind of it and smells it. So he turns and walks back up to it. He's doing circles around it. I'm watching through my binoculars, and he calls me back. He said, "What's that buck doing?" And I was like, "Well, he's actually walking circles around yours." He's like, "How big is he?" I said, "I think I'm gonna shoot him if he walks over here." And I said, "Here he comes. Hold on, let me call you back." And I put my phone in my pocket. He walks to 12 yards, and there's snow on the ground, and he can see through all the snow. He watched me shoot this deer at 12 yards, and it turns out and runs, and it dies about 30 yards from his deer. They're both laying there 50 yards from the property line, laying side by side. But
Dang,
that
that
was,
is incredible.
I mean, that week, I'll never top that week ever in my life, probably. Two back to back, and 2.5 days in Iowa and a day in Illinois. It just coming home from Illinois, I had the biggest grin on my face, and I was like, "I'll never do this again."
Oh man, that is amazing. That is so cool. I think the same thing for me. Like, I mean, I've definitely like I'll plan for 10 days when I go every year. And, you know, I just in the last 2 or 3 years, I started hunting multiple states within that 10-day period. But I would tell my wife, she'd hear me telling stories and I'd be like, "Yeah, I go on these 10-day hunts." And she's like, "No, you don't." She's like, "You plan for 10 days." But I mean, a lot of times I'm home like second, third day. But my standards for a long time were lower. I was shooting 120, 125, 130. That's kind of
Mhm.
where my sweet spot was. What age class are you targeting when you go? Is it or is it because sometimes for me it's just feeling, man. Like, I have an idea in my head, but I tell you what, if I'm jumping out of my skin and feeling really good about it, then for me personally, I'm not gonna have a hard time letting the arrow go. But yeah, how do you decide what your target is?
So on the places that I know, like Kentucky and Illinois, I've kind of got deer in mind that I'm like, I want a mature buck regardless. I
Yep.
mean, I really don't even care what he has on his head. Like if I see something walk by and he's 125 inches, but he's looks like he's 8.5, he looks like a Brahma bull, I'm gonna shoot that deer because I think
Yeah.
they're cool. Um, but I would say 135 ish, and try to be 4.5 or better on
Yeah.
age wise. It don't take a whole lot for me to get excited. I mean, I enjoy shooting them, and they're cool to look at. So
I like your answer. A lot of the what guys that I'll consider elite um is that they don't go really by inches either. It's the age class. It's this, if it's the oldest deer on the property or you think it's the oldest deer on the property and it's got a 120 on top of its head. It's the age that's really more important. That's something am striving to get to. I'm not there yet. It's going to take a few years for that, but so I respect that answer a lot. So the property in Kentucky, the property in Illinois, and some of these other places. Are you heading out before season to do some scouting, knocking on a door? Are you doing that right in season?
typically, I try to do it in the springtime. I mean, I'll even do it now this time of year if I haven't made a chance to get out there, hadn't had a chance to get out there, like Kansas. Probably be going out there within the next month, and it'll be doing it now. I mean, I just haven't had the time. Um, but I like to do it after season's over. So it may be January and they're closed up north, and I'll be there then. But usually I would say between February and March is when I do the bulk of the scouting and knocking on doors um, if that's what I'm planning on doing for the next season.
Yep.
Like when we went to Iowa, we flew out there the March prior, didn't even know if we were going to get a tag, and knocked 100 doors.
How'd that turn out for you? Knocking on the many? Did you get how many pieces of property did you get yeses to?
Well, we had three. So we had three. That's the farms we hunted. We hunted the 29-acre funnel. We hunted the farm that he killed on, and then the farm that I killed on. We're all completely separate.
Yep. Yeah, that's nice. So when you said I haven't had time, I think that's also an excuse I hear a lot about guys who are going to go out of state. And I just don't have time to go out there and pre-scout and all that kind of stuff. But your version of not having time and what everybody else's version of not having time, I think are different, because I think you're like extremely busy individual, right? So
But
like,
it took us how long to get on this podcast? A month?
yeah, exactly. Like, how many hours are you working during the week, man?
So I work for my dad during the day. I'm a concrete cutter, so we do concrete construction stuff like that. I'm at least 40 there. I own my own business. I manage and run a gym here in town, and then I've got two kids. I got a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old. She just turned one last week. And then usually my wife's working 12-hour shifts. So the days that she's working 12-hour shifts, I'm dropping off. I'm working 2 jobs, and picking up the kids, getting bath time, getting food. It's just and then
Yeah.
trying to squeeze in, shooting my bow for 10 minutes at night before the sun goes down. I get 10 arrows off, but it's usually nonstop around here.
So that goes back into mentality, right? So no excuses really. So I mean, if you're finding time throughout the year to get these little moments to go out and do some scouting, to whatever it is, do some e-scouting, shooting the bow, all that good stuff. There's really no reason why somebody else can't get out there and get it done and go. And I think a lot of the times, and that's not a dig on somebody who's been thinking that.
No.
It's a like, hey, like, actually, you can think a little differently and you can get it done. Don't let that stop you. Don't let any of this stop you. That's what we're saying right now, right? Like, don't let the fact that you've heard that nobody's going to give you permission anymore, because if you knock on enough doors, they will give you permission. I will actually say I think it's easier outside of Iowa to get permission still in certain states. But I mean, even in Iowa, you got it done. You're going out there, you're finding time to get the scouting in. I actually will do a little bit of a mix. So in the last 3 years, I've been going out scouting ahead of time. Prior to that, all I did was e-scout, but again, like
Mm-hmm.
my target was, probably an easier target to fill in those early days. And I mean, that's one thing too, is like, go in there with different expectations. If you don't have time to go in there and scout, you can still go in and have a good hunt and still grab a good deer. So there are ways to get this done. And the reason why I think we're both kind of championing this is because we have found, I mean, just, to me, man, it's such a life-giving activity that I do, traveling around, not just the hunting portion of it, not just shooting a good buck, but having a good hunt, knowing that you're in the game, meeting new people, seeing different parts of the United States, man. There's nothing else I want to do for the rest of my life except for that. Like, I love doing all of that.
Yeah, I agree. Same here. I mean, that's once I took that first trip, I was like, I'll never not do this again if I can help it. And that's the funnest part, is going out and finding them and doing the scout. And I run a bunch of cameras. It helps mitigate the time that I'm not there to be able to scout in the long distance and whatnot. So that's to me, I love finding them, and I'll find a big deer every year. If I get it killed, I may not, but I'm going to be, like you said, I'm going to be in the game, or at least in the chase.
It looks like you've been doing pretty good looking behind you there.
A blind squirrel finds an acorn every once in a while.
Yeah, you found a lot of them. That's awesome, man. So, I usually don't talk about gear a whole lot, because I think people focus on gear too much, and I always say deer over gear. But I do think gear does make it should be part of the conversation when you're traveling out of state and you're going mobile. So, are you pre-hanging stands, or are you taking more of that mobile on my back and I'm going in?
Yep. So I will have probably 3 setups with me. And I'll say if I go into a spot that, and I'm running cameras, like I said, in a lot of these spots. So this year, Kansas is going to be a lot different because it's a no camera. Um, so that's going to be completely different. But say if I go into a spot, it's like if I'm there to scout, I'm gonna go in this afternoon and I hang a stand, and I think it's going to be a good spot. I'll leave that setup. And then when I come out, maybe I'll hunt it the next morning, or if I don't, I've got another one to go somewhere else and check out. But usually I'll hunt an afternoon and a morning, and then if I don't like that setup, I'll either break that down and move it, or if I like it, I'll leave it and then carry another one and hunt for an afternoon. Until I just either nail down a spot, especially if it's not during the rut. If it's a rut, and like I said on that funnel, I'm gonna sit there, and if I think it's the spot, I'll sit there all week. But I agree, and I thought about that earlier today too. A lot of people think each year I've got to buy this and this. I've got to get a new stand that's lighter, 2 pounds lighter. I've got to get a brand new bow. I've got to. None of that really matters. It does to a certain extent. Yes, if it's going to make you more efficient, it's going to make you better. I agree, and there is a barrier to entry. You have to have some of that stuff, but it really doesn't take any of that.
Mm-mm. No, it doesn't. Yeah, especially like, I mean, I will say I use high end stuff now, but I didn't start off that way. And the reason why I do it now is for the efficiency piece of it. I like things that are designed well, that help me just kind of get right to the point and get it done.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, in the old days, I mean, I was using all different types of sticks and, stands, and really saddles. For me, I've been hunting out of a saddle for 18 years. Until last year, I went with a 0.5 Lone Wolf custom gear stand. And I do both. So those are the two things I'll carry with me. Is I'll bring the stand and the saddle. I'll leave the stand if I feel like, I get out to a spot and I'm like, this is going to be a good, afternoon spot, but it's not a good morning spot. Then I'm going to use my saddle in the morning and head out somewhere else. And then, sometimes I'll leave both setups in the stand, or like, hey, I know I'm going to bounce back and forth between these two. I'm leaving them both there. That doesn't happen a lot, but so diving into the gear a little bit, do you have like a preference of what kind of stand you use or what kind of saddle you're using?
So I think as soon as Tethered had launched, I had kind of was on, I wouldn't say the forefront. You were on the forefront, you and John Eberhard. I mean, you've been doing it forever. But I would say I just started getting into it when people were making their own little, I don't even remember what they were called back then. They had like some little slings that people were making. I never got into it then, but as soon as Tethered had launched, I think their first one was the Manus, and I'd bought that, and I never had a reason to get rid of it. I mean, I'm sure there's probably better ones out there, but it had worked for me. And I actually ended up trading a guy for a tethered Phantom. And so that's what I've been using for years now. And I use a Predator XL platform, and I have the platform and sticks for that setup. And then I have a Lone Wolf custom gear 0.75 with a single step 6. Just basically exactly like you. I'm bouncing back between both of them, and I'll use them in conjunction. A lot of times I'll even wear my saddle in the stand.
Yep. Yeah, if I don't know exactly what it like to expect, I'll bring both. I don't like to hunt hybrid out of the stand. I'll do it, but right now I think, if I have an idea of what kind of trees are there, I'm leaning towards the 0.5 more now. It could be age. I'm 47, and but I'll tell you what, still on a dark to dark, because I'm hunting more than just the rut time period now. On a dark to dark, I'm still going with the saddle. I have a 2-panel saddle, and to me, that's like the most comfortable sit for the entire day. But so, are you going to venture? Are you hunting different time periods besides the rut? Then have you ever tried to go out early season at all?
So yeah, absolutely. I hunt Kentucky every year for the opener. That's one of my favorite times. I love a buck that's on a consistent pattern, going to bean fields that's one of my favorite times. I look forward to that hunt every year, and everybody's like, man, I don't know how you're doing it sitting out in 100-degree temps. I was like, buddy, I work in 100-degree temps. I'd rather be doing something that I enjoy than work anyway. So yeah, I've killed 3 deer in velvet in Kentucky, and then I'll hunt the entire month of October in Illinois.
Okay. Yeah.
And then even after the rut, so if I haven't killed one in Illinois in the rut or early season, I love being there in December. It's a great time to be there. They start transitioning back from the rut. Hold on, I'm getting a call. But once they're transitioned off the rut back into the feed pattern, I mean, you can find a big one that's just a slave to his stomach at that point.
Yeah. So what does your technique switch a little bit then? I mean, are you going in back in the late season and are you glassing for a day to kind of find out where everything's at and then making a game plan, or are you using trail cameras or going off that data?
Yeah, especially I've only really hunt late season in Illinois because typically your late season time frame is when our rut starts here in Alabama.
Ah,
So I only make one or two trips to Illinois late season, and I've got tons of cameras just running to, and then I'm looking at if I can get a pattern on one, I'll go up there and try to capitalize on it. But other than that, I mean, you start around December 15th on, it's when it's getting really good here. So I'm trying to shift my focus. I'm hunting, two or three different ruts, just bouncing from there to here. So I'll shift my focus, and that's when I'll just get real dialed in here and try to kill something in the rut.
so pulling you back to 2008, actually, let's pull you back to the before then. Okay, leading up to 2008, were you slaying like you are now? Or did the trip out of state kind of hit a switch for you? I
As
mean,
far as
you said you killed 11 deer. I mean, you must have been a killing machine.
well, so me and my brother, we grew up in the woods behind our house. We ran around with a pellet gun. We would set our alarms to wake up and go bird hunting. I mean, we literally ran, and I tell my buddy this, and they're like, "Well, I guess it worked." It just being in the woods enough. But we've run around and we literally shot squirrels and rabbits and raccoons. We tried to shoot anything we could, and then we started busting deer out of these little thickets. And I'll never forget. Like, probably now that I look back at it, it's probably some of the best whitetail habitat I've seen here in Alabama. But we had had our mom go buy us a little cheap bows from Walmart. They were Braves. They wouldn't even penetrate. We shot a skunk one time, wouldn't even penetrate it. But we were just shooting them, getting good with them. We would throw up foam disc and shoot them out of the air. And then we got to where we were strong enough to pull like decent weight back. So we went and bought two brand new like high country youth bows that would pull like 38 or 40 pounds. And we shot those things religiously. But here in Alabama, we've got a 3-month rifle season. So it's just kind of everybody here does it. It's like a tradition. And so we had a guy take us one time, and I shot my first two. I shot two does one afternoon on food plot with a rifle. And that was probably in 97 or 90, it might have been 98. And then we killed two bucks back to back in 98, me and my brother both, December 27th. And I've got a pretty cool picture on I think it's on my Instagram. Both of us in the back of a truck with two little 8-pointers, and we're just tiny little kids. But we had really good property to hunt back then, and I did a lot of rifle hunting. So I killed a ton of deer. I mean, I shot a lot of does. After that 8-pointer, I really didn't shoot anything. I tried not to shoot anything that was smaller than that. I mean, I shot one or two 6-pointers or something like that, but they were better frames. But for the most part, I would say 2006, I got a Matthews Outback. My dad bought me a Matthews Outback, and I might have been 5. I can't remember. I shot a deer with it opening morning, a little spike. I thought it was a doe, and shot this little spike. And after that, I was like, I only really want to bow hunt. Like, and I still did every year. I'd carry a rifle and go hunt some stuff. But it's just something about being close, being more intimate with the animal. And so I tried to shoot as many as I could. It was just, and now you hear a lot of people talking about it. They're like, dude, you need to be shooting a lot of deer to get good at it because, yeah. And I tell people that, like, you don't want to travel up north and the first giant that you ever see comes walking by. That's not going to be good. So I was just shooting doe after doe, and I would shoot, small basket 8-pointers, and I was just trying to get numbers and get some kind of consistency where I can actually go out there and hit one.
Yeah.
But with 2008, 2008 was kind of the turning point as far as the bigger bucks. I'm like, I'd killed, maybe my biggest at the time was 110, 15 inches. And when I killed that 140, I was like, this is all I'm going to kill.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I come home to Alabama, and for 10 years, I never even killed a buck in Alabama for 10 years because I was like, if it ain't 140, I'm not shooting. But we're in Alabama. I was a younger kid. That you might see one every 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think that going out of state made you a better deer hunter? And you're already killing a bunch.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously it helps you become a better deer hunter towards that type of deer. I mean, because I could go and shoot a doe, but I wouldn't see in that caliber of deer. But as far as like I think when you're targeting a certain age class or a certain caliber, it's just a different type of animal. It really is.
Yeah.
So I mean, it does, and I would say even hunting in Alabama has probably helped make me a better hunter for up north, just because of the quality of deer, the terrain, the amount of pressure we get. So
yeah, for me, it made me a better deer hunter all around because I had to learn. I had a shorter time period to get it done, and so I had to. It forced me to make mistakes. I was a little different than you. I didn't kill when I should have because I was watching these, big buck TV shows, and I was like, well, that's all I'm going to shoot is one of those. And one, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was a late onset hunter, so I didn't start till I was in my 20s. And then we just didn't have those. At least I wasn't hunting in a way that I was going to see one of those. I think Michigan has them. I just wasn't hunting in the way that I was going to see it. And I didn't want to make a mistake, so I was playing really conservative. And when you start going out of state and you've only got X amount of days to get it done, I started off a little conservative, but you get a few days in, all of a sudden you're like, all right, man, I'm getting in there and trying to figure this thing out. It was that moment of getting in there and trying to figure it out. That's what out of state did for me, that helped me kind of process information a little bit faster and know, kind of the risks that I could take. Michigan actually held me back a little bit in some of those places where, in a weird kind of way, because I thought I had to go in like super deep every time out of state. And because that's what I had to do in Michigan. If I was going to see anything, as I got older, I started to learn, okay, I got to get a little bit more mobile. I got to get a little bit more deeper and away from everybody. And I started to do that out of state, and I was blowing past the deer. Like, so I had to adjust a little bit and learn to read the sign as I move in. And so in that way, it made me a better deer hunter. And I think, like you said, even on the caliber of deer that you're talking about, going to a state, like if you're from a state that doesn't have that type of caliber deer, to really learn how to hunt them, you have to be around them and you have to watch them and you have to make mistakes on them. And that's why I'm always champion for people to go out of state and try it, because I think your learning curve gets like a lot faster. Like you have to get in there and learn quickly.
Yeah, when you're in them more, I mean, and that comes back to the shooting them too. I mean, if you've only got one opportunity at one decent buck per year or per 3 years in Alabama or Michigan or wherever, you're, like you said, the learning curve's a lot slower because you might have 5 opportunities in one season out of state, or you might have 5 opportunities in 1 week at that same caliber of deer. I mean, I'm with you. I try to tell everybody you have to go to experience it, because once they do, it's kind of, they're going to want to go. But just like me, I mean, they're going to want to go every year.
Yeah, yeah. So here we are. I mean, it's just funny how fast this conversation has gone. We're already really close to the hour mark. So what I want to do is there anything that you really wanted to talk about on this podcast that I haven't asked you the question yet? Is there something that a message that you want to give out to someone who maybe hasn't had that opportunity to go out of state or has hesitated and now they're thinking about it, like, man, I'm listening to these guys. I want to kind of experience that. What would you tell them?
I'd say go do it. Be a doer, not a thinker.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just what holds a lot of people back. I see it all the time around here. People's like, man, I want to go with you one year, or they got to have somebody to go with them. I mean, you're not always going to get, if it's something that you want to do. I mean, it's like, if I want to go, I want to go. My dream hunt is a Kodiak Island brown bear hunt with a bow. I'm not going to be able to be like, hey, buddy, you want to go with me on a $30,000 hunt and we're going to go hunt? No, I'm going to have to go by myself. If that's what you want to do, you've got to go and do it. You're not always going to have, yeah, if you can find you a friend and just to get out of state for once and try it. But I mean, you just got to go.
Yeah. And it's not because it's easier. I think it's because it actually challenges you and it gets you out of your comfort zone. I mean, for me, in one sense, it's easier to get on that caliber of a better caliber of deer by going out of Michigan. So there's that truth. But to actually still get it done, it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not a guaranteed. I mean, I've ate a lot of tag soup. I mean,
Me too.
Last year I went to, man, I can't remember how many. I think 3 different states, and I filled tag in one, and I ate tag soup in the other 2. And so it's not that it's a guarantee, but it's not actually getting the buck down that is the ultimate reason why I would tell someone to leave. It's because the whole entire experience will make you a better person all around and a better hunter, you know.
For sure.
So
Yeah, you're not always going to fill a tag. I was the same way last year. I killed one in Alabama and one in Illinois, and I had Kentucky and Missouri unfilled. The year prior is literally the only year I've ever tagged out, and I shot Iowa, Illinois, and I killed 3 in Alabama. But other than that, I've never tagged out in my life on all the states. This year, I've got 4 states. I hope to kill one. I mean, I'm not. That's all I want. You know, I don't have to go and shoot 5 every year.
yeah,
It'd be awesome.
One thing I regret that I haven't done, and I am going to do now, is like when you get those states that give you the doe tag with the buck tag. I've never filled the doe tag. I'll kill my buck, and then usually I'm packing up and heading out. And I think now I'm gonna take a doe with me too. One, just to do my part in their state. You know, if I take a buck, I should take a doe. The other part is just, man, because it's fun. You know,
and it's good practice.
It's good practice, and I'm leaving a tag on the table. Why not just, you know, fill it? If you're in the deer already, you know, then you might as well go back and take out a doe and take full advantage of it.
Yeah. So last year, Illinois, I drove up. I got there at probably 10 o'clock that morning, and I was going in to kind of do like an observation set. And it is like a 6-day hunt when I go up there to Illinois. I usually stay for a week. The first afternoon in, I was in the tree for 20 minutes, and I shot a 140-inch 8-pointer. And so that night, I went to Walmart, and I was like, I'm buying 10 doe tags. I'm about to just slay them all week. I'm here. I did not see a mature doe after that. All yearlings and all bucks for the rest of the week. And I was like, I might as well go home then.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd stick out a week for a doe, but I mean, you know, throwing another day or 2 at it, you know, to get the doe done, then I think it'd be fun.
Well, it was on our lease, and we just got a huge population of does. I was thinking, I'll shoot 10. We could. I mean, really, everybody there could probably shoot 5 to 10 and wouldn't do us any harm. So I was like, I'm gonna go and shoot, you know, because we got a bunch of different farms. There's 4 or 5 different farms. So I was thinking I'll shoot 2 or 3 off each farm the whole week I'm here. Did not see a single mature doe.
Yeah. So just to recap our conversation really quick, really we're saying there's no excuse. You can sleep in your car if you have to. You can buddy up and get a Airbnb. You can knock on doors and find some of those sweet deals too, where you can, you know, stay on a you know, mother-in-law's house, whatever they call it, that extra little section. There's a lot of options for that, and they're not as complicated or as expensive as what you might think. I would actually lean towards go by yourself the first couple of times if you don't have someone with the same mindset, because they might hold you back and make your experience, you know, not what you want it to be. When it's by yourself, you can go and push as hard as you want, and you don't have to worry about anybody else. But get out there and try it. One of your techniques is to go beforehand and do some scouting and lay down, even going back and laying down some cameras, even if you're a month and a half out. So right now, if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, damn it, I want to go out of state, then get up, go and do some pre-scouting, even if it's 1 or 2 days.
Right. I'm going to Illinois this weekend, and I will leave my house at 3 a.m. and I'll be back sleeping in my bed by midnight that night. But it'll be go up just to deploy cameras, and I'll be back. But yeah, I mean, just to get after it.
Yeah. And I mean, I did that too in 2022. I went there 6 or 7 times doing that, drive all the way down 5.5 hours to get there, do it all day long, and then come back home. And I'm an old man, so there's no excuse for you. So like go ahead and do that. Like I would say, even if you can't do that, then e-scout, go in, read off the sign. That'll sharpen your skills like crazy. And go
and
in and
and compare and
yeah,
compare what you're looking at on map. And once you're there, like, okay, this is what I thought it was, or this is not. So that way, next time you see that same thing, it's like, okay, well, it's probably just like I thought it was
yeah,
on the map from last time. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, and that's a good thing you can do. I mean, you don't necessarily have to even, you can wait till your kids and wife goes to bed, and you can e-scout in the bed for an hour every night and get you further than not being there at all.
yeah, yeah. I will say that I think the caliber of buck and your odds go way up if you can make at least one trip prior to. I really think that the odds are in your favor if you do that.
I agree with that.
So anything else before we hit the stop button here that you want to say?
I don't think so. It's been good. Just
Awesome. Man, I
go
can't
to,
thank you enough for doing it and coming on here. And it's awesome to see those bucks behind you too, and to hear your stories. And it's incredible that, I mean, I didn't know that you had that many velvet bucks already. So I still haven't gotten a velvet one yet. I'm heading back to Nebraska here in about 3 weeks, and sounds like you're heading to Kentucky here pretty soon. So good luck, man. And if you have any success this season, which I'm sure you will, I'd love to have like a recap with you later on, maybe in January, February.
yeah, sounds good. I really appreciate it. Good luck this year.
Thanks, man. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Uh, Instagram is where I do most of my posting, my deer, by Facebook from family and stuff. But it's Cody Osborn _
Awesome. So really appreciate you, stopping by the dojo. Appreciate everybody else for coming by again this week. So thanks everybody. And until we see you again, embrace the journey. Well, that's it for us this week here on the dojo. Remember, we're going to come back to you in 2 weeks with another whitetail master. In that episode, we are talking with Bo Martonic, and we are covering his Cold Country short film that he recently put out. It's an amazing film, and we get into the mindset of what it takes to put something like that together and actually spot and stalk whitetail deer over there in Cold Country, West Virginia. Awesome conversation. Had a great time with him. You're going to enjoy that one when it comes out here in 2 weeks. Until then, you can listen to us on our 10-minute Tuesday or head over to our YouTube page and catch a video there. I'm heading out to Nebraska right now, everyone. We are so close to season, and remember to embrace the journey. We'll see you soon.